So it is very important to understand that why are we learning this programming language. As you all know that we all know different languages to communicate, to express ourselves to other person, or let's say also to other one, those who are on the other side. So we use different mediums, different languages to express ourselves. This time we have a computer to whom I want to express myself, to give the commands and to tell that what it needs to do. So how we can achieve it is by learning a programming language. Programming, the program word means that we are dealing with the computers. Because our computers are dumb machine. They are fast, but they don't have brain to think by themselves. So we have to give them command to work or to execute this stuff that we want. Our computers understand machine level language, which is known as binary language. Binary means two. Two means always it has a combination of only two digits, that is zeros and ones. If you take it like computers are what? Circuits. One means on, zero means off, like this. So this is how we have the different combinations that our program or our computer understands. If I tell you that, okay, just learn different combinations of zeros and ones so that we can talk with the computer. Is it possible? Let's say even if you have to write hello, maybe something like this, it will be a long string of zeros and ones because you don't know till where H is there, then where E is starting or till where will be ending. It is a bit messy. The stream of zeros and ones, they become complicated to work with and to debug the stuff that what exactly you were trying to write. So for that purpose, our humans, the developers came forward and they built high-level programming languages, and the one which we are going to learn is Python. It allows us as a human, as a Python developer, to write in English language, which is easier for us to learn and to express our thoughts. We are going to use some of the keywords which are very much similar to what we write in English. This is the reason why we are learning Python, so that we can express our thoughts and tell to our computer what to do with that language. Okay. Now, if you guys might be having a concern that here we are in Python, computer understands binary. How are they going to communicate with each other with two different languages? Whenever there are two different languages, let's say in real world, you have two different scenarios that two people are speaking in different languages, then what they do? They hire a translator to fill the gap. So over here, to fill the gap, we will be also taking a help of a translator, and that translator is interpreter in Python. This interpreter does our conversion, Python into binary and binary back into Python. Okay. This is how it's going to work. Moving further, this was just a small overview, means we haven't started with the Python yet. But before moving ahead, we also need to know the soul or the architecture of the language, which comes by understanding the working of its translator, that is interpreter. If you are already aware of other programming languages, you might be known that in computers, we use either compilers or other one that we use is interpreters. The task is same, to convert high-level programming language into machine understandable language. If I give you a gist of both of them about the translators, the one is compilers. So what happens is, in case of compilers, if you could do it, that in some of the programming languages, the language in which you write is known as source code. Then comes the compiler. And then comes the object. So when you work on a compiled language, what happens is your complete code is taken as a whole and sent it to the compiler. Compiler checks that yes, as per the standard of the language, if you have written correctly, then it converts it into binary, exe file that computer can execute. Is it clear so far?
Yes.
Okay. Now talking about the working in Python, that is of interpreter, what happens is interpreter works line by line. Compilers work in bulk. And interpreters they work line by line. From top to bottom, they proceed line by line. They takes first line, it checks that it is valid, it converts it into Python. Valid as per Python standard, it executes it. Then it takes the second code, checks if it is as per the standard, execute it. Takes the third one, is it as per the standard? It executes it. Next one, let's say there are two more lines and over here I made an error. So the beauty of using this language is that for above lines, I have the execution over here. Just for the line which is having error, it pauses at that moment. But for above lines, I have some output, the execution of the code. But in case of compilers, it is not the case. If you have, let's say, 100 lines of code and you made an error at 100th line, you are not going to get any output. So this is the difference between the working of interpreter and the compilers, and this depicts the difference how Python works. Is it clear the difference and the working of the Python language?
Yeah, it's true.
Okay, yeah. What about others? Means, are they also getting? I hope you all are getting, because just try to make it interactive. It will be just beneficial for you guys only. So this was about our interpreters and how all the stuff is working. So now let's know a bit more about Python, because let's know the language which we are going to start and have the tools and setup ready. So let's know firstly about what is Python. Python is an interpreted language. Why interpreted? It uses interpreter as its translator. That's why it is known as interpreted language. Then comes object-oriented. Oops. It is acronym for object-oriented programming system, which is like a must as per the industry that you should know at least one OOPS programming language and OOPS fundamentals. This is what it is sort of required. So for that, Python is purely OOPS language and it is used over here. Oops, if I give you an idea, just it is like a paradigm, a way of writing code that whether your code, it depicts how it will be in the real world scenario, that you are writing the code the way real world things exist. Just take an example. In OOPS, we have two things, class, object. Means there are more. The basic ones is class and object. Just to understand more about OOPS, you can think it like, let's say iPhone or Samsung is creating a new mobile device. So they are about to launch. It is not like directly they will be going into the manufacturing unit and they will say just manufacture a new phone. There's a proper team that sits and they decide the features and the properties and the functionalities of that phone. So whatever that, let's say, assuming they're writing that how much big is screen, which Android version will be there, and what will be the name of that particular phone, the colors, and which sensors it will be having, and how much RAM, ROM, all that stuff. So that is like sort of a class, which depicts that how all my real-time objects are, what functionalities and features my objects are going to have. An object is what? That mobile phone that comes into your hand after being manufactured. That is your object. Okay. So this is about your object-oriented programming system. Oops. After that comes high level. High level means that it will be like in the high level, you can simply say that you are easily able to write it down in your English language and it is easily understandable by you as a human what you are trying to write. And then comes procedural, that this is another paradigm which depicts that we are also going to follow the procedural approach to write our programs, the step-by-step approach. When we go for making a, let's say, some recipe or something, we follow step 1, step 2, step 3. That comes under the procedure. Fine. After that, let's discuss that why we have chosen Python as our programming language. We have other high-level programming languages to be learned, but we are learning, let's say, Python. The thing is, it is very easy to write. If you will see, it's very easy to write in Python. Over here, if you compare your code with, let's say, Java or C++, it is way easier to write in Python language than those languages. Okay, it is like there is no extra imports or something. If let me show you a normal, let's take an example of Java code. Let me copy it. If I create a new slide, let's say, and let me write down over here. This is a normal Java code to write hello world. There are so many jargons and it's like so many different things that you have to work with. Now, if the same thing I talk to you that I want to write in Python, it's just clear, simple that you have to say. You want something to be printed out. So we say print hello world directly. See how much simplicity it provides you. That there is no extra jargons, nothing, clear cut straight. If you are aware of English language, then you will be easily be able to learn and work with the Python programming language. There are various inbuilt functionalities like sorting, for searching, for finding the particular value or to manipulate the data. It provides you a different whole lot of functions which makes it more friendlier to be used. And if you will take a sort of like if you will search online the top 5 programming language surveys or the most widely used programming languages by GitHub, by Stack Overflow, you will get that Python is always there among top 3 or top 5 at least. That it is not going anywhere and it is rock solid there in industry. And the demand is really good for the Python. Okay. After that, let's see the less code. This we have checked efficient. Yes, it is quite efficient programming language, but less in comparison with C and C++ because that are directly working with the code, the kernel, the hardware, and the memory of your programming language of your computer. So those are the beast, but Python is also a bit good in efficiency. Okay. Then comes cross-platform, that no matter whether you are on Windows, Linux, Mac, it was same throughout all those operating systems. And it is open source, that is freely available for all of you. And it is like no paid such thing you have to do. Then comes the scope, what you can do after learning core Python. We will be also covering some data science libraries like NumPy, Pandas, all of that. That will be like in data science part. Despite that, if you are interested in doing some backend in web development, then Django is a very popular framework by Python, which you can learn. For desktop applications, we have PyQt5, Kinter. For scraping means from the existing websites, if you want to scrape some data and work with it, then we have Scrapy, Beautiful Soup, all of that. And for automating part, like for some testing purposes and all, for that as well, Python is used over here. Then comes that Guido van Rossum. He is the developer who built Python in 1990s, and yeah, it's pretty much now from last decade it is pretty much popular in the industry. And this is just a like from the comedy series, like Python name came from the comedy series and not from the snakes. Basically everyone think that Python name is on the snakes, which is not true. Some of the companies that earlier used to use Python or some are using Python are over here. And it is said that, Instagram was completely built using Django, the website of the Instagram. And Reddit was earlier completely built with Python. So as companies work with the different tech stacks together, so definitely Python is inside it. That is worked with and that is used over here. Okay. So this was some bit overview about the language that we are about to work with. So some of the small things that we are going to learn over here, that from very starting installations and everything we are going to perform, learning about the variables, data types, all that stuff, operators, conditional rendering, detail analysis on all the data types, then what are the modular programming, module concepts, then functions, about the file handling, exception handling, oops concepts, then further going on the advanced side, decorators, iterators, about your libraries like NumPy, Pandas, all of that is going to be covered throughout the course, okay? And then you can follow along with us, and let's now move on the installation, because the tools are basically needed to get started with our work. So only two things that we are required over here is, the one is python.org. It is the official website. Just go over there and you have to install the Python latest version. Click over here. There will be an exe file which will get downloaded, and then just you have to do click next. Okay. Is there anyone other than Windows working on a operating system other than Windows?
Yeah, I do have installed Linux.
You have installed it?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. If anyone is for the Windows guys, especially, there will be a check mark in the very start only. Just make sure you tick it. It is very important for Windows to tick this checkbox to add to path. Okay. Other things are like very simple, and you can just do it next. I agree. And then at last there will be one disable path length limit, which you can click, and then it will be done. Okay. So this will be like for the Python software, and the one with where we are going to write our codes will be Visual Studio Code. Again, it is open source, freely available. Just for Windows and everything, it is very easier. Next, and just you can install it. If anyone faces any issue, we can have I will provide you screen sharing options and then you can show me in the class. But it will be very much simpler, just we have to do next, I agree. Okay. As I already have, so I can't show the complete setup. Still, it is very easier. Just you let me know. We can do on anyone's laptop if they have any problem. Now, once it's installed, you can go to your terminal. For Mac and Linux people, you have already Python 2 pre-installed in your system. So whenever Python 2 is now no longer available, no one uses it in 2020, its support is taken away by the developers. So you have to explicitly say Python 3 whenever I am writing Python on Windows. And for Windows people, just directly write Python. Okay. So this is the interactive shell provided to us, these 3 greater than symbols. These are the interactive shell where you can directly execute your Python code. Let's say I want to execute hello world. Like this. On the go, you get your output. But we are not going to use it over here. Definitely, we are going to use VS Code to write our codes. Okay. Because as soon as I will just shut it down, it is not saving anywhere. And if you want to check the version, just type Python space -- version. It will give you the version of your Python. For Mac and Linux people, just type Python 3 space -- version. Because if you will say Python, it will always go to Python 2. But we have to work on Python 3. Okay.